good to be back here at Sit and Spin. Yeah. If I can get two, it's going to be good. God, I just went through the body scanner at the TSA again, and the body scanner is something we just kind of like accepted. Like there was a big protest when they first came out. They're invasive, they're pornographic, they show you naked, and then we just all like, there's too much else to be upset about, and we want to get to the plane, and so we just, at first, like you can opt out, you can do the pat down, it just takes longer. And when it first came out, I was like, I'm going to always opt out, I'm going to always do the pat down because my freedom matters to me, and I don't want to go through radiation. And then after one time, I'm like the rest of you, we go through the scanner. And it's so unnecessary. I went through this like 2 weeks ago, and I step out, and the guy says, wait a minute. And then he holds out his hand, and he said, I have to run my fingers through your hair. I've been touching things all day. I'm going to remove my glove. Is this okay with you? And I laughed too, because I thought he was joking, and he started taking off his glove, and he repeated himself. He said, I'm going to run my fingers through your hair. I've been touching things all day. I'm going to remove my glove. Is this okay with you? I said, I guess, if that's what you're into. And then he pointed to the monitor, and there's this big yellow blotchy area over the back of my head, and it was just like, this is happening. The body scanner, not only do 9-inch razor blades make it through, it can't tell if I've got a bomb in my hair. So pointless. We don't have to put up with it, that's what I'm saying. George Carlin said it in 1999, you don't have to put up with this. So really what I'm here to do is campaign for bus stop level airport security. I think you should grab a bag, you should get on the plane, and if it blows up, that's the risk we take to... Through these walls, we're floating over ghost towns, lost in thought, my feet don't touch the ground. All we've got is permanent data. A day pass costs $8.99 on an airplane. Out my window, planet Earth looks like an avocado, ancient and it shows, but look how far we've grown. We still got a long way to go. Oh, I will miss these days. Oh, I will miss your face. It feels like we're never gonna change till you find yourself all get screens and dirty windows over Idaho. I let my tray down. This one's a flat top. Who needs a shallow drink holder? Oh, I will miss these days. Oh, I will miss your face. It feels like things are never gonna change. You can find yourself on a plane. On a plane. Let my seat recline, not quite far enough to be comfortable. window, planet Earth looks like our El Dorado. Everything we own is borrowed. Food, shelter, and gold on an airplane. Out my window, planet Earth looks like an avocado, ancient and it shows, creased and crinkled. We still got a long way to go.
If it's true that only the good die young, it makes sense that my mother is still alive. 4 packs a day for 70 years didn't kill her. But they turned her heart valves to stone. 10 years ago, she got new ones. Pig valves. Thanks to a sweet sow, loving mother to her piglets, she sacrificed her life so the heart of my mother, an angry, non-kosher would go on and on. After the operation, the cardiologist told us that she'd have 6 more good years tops. But like a plot twist in a fairy tale, there was a catch. No more smoking. It's been 10 years. She's still here. Lost and alone without her beloved best friends, her cigarettes, she became a bitter ash of her former smokier self. She popped out a litter of 5 baby boomers. I'm in the middle. Her last vaginal birth. She loved being pregnant, the attention, being lazy, and of course, she smoked like a crematorium. Her dream was to have 6 babies, but while she was still under anesthesia during her last C-section, my father and her mother told the OBGYN, "Quick, tie her tubes." When she awoke from the ether to meet her 5th child, she erupted in a postpartum tsunami of venom. Her fantasy family photo shattered. But for a mother like her, 5 kids were 5 too many. I wonder about the 6th child she never had. I think it would have been a boy. She prefers boys. I named him Lucky. She tried to keep us helpless babies, but we defied her and grew up. That's when she turned into Cruella de Vil. When I was a little girl, she scared the snot out of me. She'd tell people, when they learned to talk, I wanted to have them stuffed and hung on the wall. She imploded when 4 out of 5 moved away and never came back. It never occurred to her that we'd become adults. She wanted babies, not people. My big sister was the difficult one. My little sister, the bossy one. I was the good one. In the native language of the Lakota tribe, it means she who stayed and obeyed. Mom shiny new pig valves oinked away for 5 smoke-free years when I needed to have cataract surgery. I had a patch on my eye and wore those enormous black, sad, $2 sunglasses they make you wear. I stopped by to check on her and stood at the foot of her bed while she wailed, "I'm alone, I'm all alone." Excuse me, what am I, a mirage? I'm going to die alone. You're not going to die alone, I lied. How do you know? Did you go to medical school? Are you a doctor? You won't die alone because somebody will be standing over you with a pillow against your face. pain. What kind of pain? She didn't know because she's not a doctor. She couldn't describe it or locate it, which is why she needed to go to the hospital. Tomorrow. Not today. Tomorrow. I called the doctor. I don't know what's wrong with her. She wants to go to Sears. There's nothing wrong with her, said the doctor. Can't you just admit her? Run a few tests? She's 90 years old. It's a Munchausen thing. That's a real fake illness, isn't it? I suppose so. Her insurance will cover it. Today's Thursday. I'll admit her on Monday. No, I don't know why, but she's got to go tomorrow. Please, I just had cataract surgery and she's jealous of my eye patch. All right, said the doctor. Bring her to the ER tomorrow morning at 7:30. They can't perform any tests until Monday. Great news! You get to go to the hospital! Woohoo! We have to be there at 7:30. Put on your prettiest nightgown. You're going to the ball, Miss Scarlett. I can't wake up that early. I'll go at 2 after breakfast. You think I want to get up at 6 a.m.? It's 7:30 or nothing. What's it going to be? Tick-tock. She was furious. I had to channel my inner Nancy Drew to find out the real reason she wanted to be a patient. It wasn't medical. Had to be mental. I discovered her girl, Maria, was taking a week off and leaving Mom with her niece, Michelle. Michelle was 25, super cute and terrific. She despised Michelle. Michelle wouldn't let my mother be rude. She was horrible to Maria, but Maria never complained to Mrs. because she didn't understand her. She didn't speak a word of English. Mom would say, Maria, you're fat. Maria, throw your ratty apron in the trash. Maria, speak English. You're in America. This isn't Mexico. Maria would laugh and say, oh, Mrs. She made my mother feel like Joan Rivers. When we said, stop being mean to Maria, she'd say, shut up. She's the only one who gets me. Maria's brother Diego had diabetes and had been in the hospital for months. They amputated a foot. He had dozens of visitors every day. On weekends, it was like Cinco de Mayo. Mom was obsessed with the attention lavished on Diego. Maria wanted to spend a week with him. Michelle was her understudy. I emailed my sibs. Your mother will be in Cedars for a few days. She's fine. She doesn't want to be stuck with Michelle. The next morning, I picked her up from the Death Star. That's her apartment. It was the first time in a year she'd been outside. I thought, this might give her a heart attack. The nurses mistook me for the patient. She was pissed. Then a couple of cute male orderlies scooped her up and plopped her into a bed. A creepy, flirty smile shot across that gaping hole of her mouth. She still loves boys, acts like Blanche Dubois when she's really Granny Clampett. She whispered to me, do I need a little lipstick? You're in the freaking ER. Lipstick and no teeth? Excuse me, nurse, could I please have some morphine? I stared her down with my one good eye. Don't be a bitch. Pretend you're sick. I've got to go get my eyeball checked. Bye-bye, Miss American Pie. No, don't go. See ya, wouldn't want to be ya. What about me? You're in a hospital, not a corn maze. When will you be back? He never said I had to be back. Don't be a smartass. Mom, if you die while I'm gone, tell them the morgue's in the basement. I didn't go back to Cedars until late Sunday afternoon. She was raging rabid mad. My darling Uncle Buddy, her 88-year-old brother, had a minor stroke and wanted me to visit him. Shh, don't tell your mother. He didn't want her to worry about him. When he was a baby, she pushed him down a flight of stairs. She was the bad seed. Patty McCormick played her in the movie. Weary and one-eyed, I waddled toward her room. Donna, a pretty Filipino nurse, intercepted me. Can I help you? Again, I was mislabeled a patient. Thanks, I'm heading to room 3478. Think I'll need a hazmat suit. 3478? That's Mrs. Markman's room. She hasn't had a visitor all weekend. Are you her friend? God, no! I'm her daughter. You? Your daughter? I'm sure Donna expected a selfish, spoiled Kim Kardashian type, not middle-aged, eye-patched, worn-out me. I know how the gears grind in that rock-hard head. She thought when her kids found out about Cedars, they'd move heaven and earth to be by her side. That didn't happen. Donna, walk with me. Here's the thing. We're not Mexican. We're Jews. Jews show up after you're dead. They did all the tests Medicare would pay for and found zero wrong with her, except she was depressed. She screamed, "I'm not depressed! God damn it, I'm sick!" For the last 6.5 years, she's lived in her bed. Maria quit. Michelle, who? Her darling caregivers are in charge of everything that goes in and comes out of her. I don't know how they do it. Well, there is a paycheck, but still. They watch NCIS, Bones, and Castle on a loop at a decibel level that makes everybody's ears, but hers, bleed. On the brink of 96, she is Miss Havisham, imperious and entombed in that hot, dark room, where maybe someday she will die, or not. But in case she does, I've prepaid her burial expenses because I'm an optimist. Because I'm the good one.
Good evening. My name is Wyatt, and I have a problem. You see, my problem is the way that I talk. You're going to notice as this story goes on that I don't talk like a 26-year-old is supposed to. I talk more like an uptight alien who learned English by watching films from the 1960s and has also decided he's running for mayor. It's not a combination that makes me a hit at parties. When I speak, I choose my words carefully. And by carefully, I really mean obsessively. I make sure to enunciate. I take the time to pause. I don't use speech disfluences like or I use phrases like speech disfluences in conversation. I didn't pick up these speaking habits at some fancy liberal arts college. The truth is that all of my emphasis on diction and the false poise that it gives me are all just a carefully constructed cover. Because I have spent my whole life focused on the words coming out of my mouth. And frankly, it's exhausting. But I don't have a choice. I have to put all of this effort into each and every word that I say, because if I don't, I will stutter. Badly. I am a stutterer. I've been one for as long as I can remember. As a child, I could barely get a sentence out. I even had to repeat the first grade because of my stutter. My tongue was this wonky record player, skipping, and the harder that I tried to make it stop, the more it would skip. And because of my stutter, I learned what sounds that I needed to avoid. The hard C, M's, the dreaded double T. And just a quick side note here, to whoever coined the term stutterer, who do you think you are? What sort of sadist would label a child who gets hung up on specific sounds and letters with a word that starts with an S, has a double T, and ends in a repeated ER? Stutterer, stutterer, stutterer. I can say it now, motherfucker. There are lots of reasons why children stutter, both biological and psychological. I didn't stutter because there was something physically wrong with my mouth or throat. My problem was in here. I stuttered because I was scared. And I was scared because of what had happened to my father. You see, about a week before my second birthday, my father was the victim of a violent crime. It was a Sunday afternoon, and he had gone over to the neighbor's house to ask them to turn down their music. This wasn't the first time he had done this. But that time, things escalated. And the man shot my father 4 times in the neck and chest. It was sudden and brutal and senseless. And me and my family have had to live in the wake of his death ever since. And although the man responsible spent the rest of his natural life in prison, I began my life with the memory that without mourning, the ones you care about most can be taken from you. And the world is a frightening place. And if that wasn't bad enough, I learned sometime later in life what song had set off the whole incident. The song that had been playing when my father was murdered. You all know it. It was on the top of the charts in the fall of 1991. That song was Good Vibrations by Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Yes, that Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. It's the one that goes, it's such a good vibration. It's such a sweet sensation. And then Marky Mark would rap. And although now I can respect the lyrical stylings of Mr. Wahlberg and his bunch, despite their funkiness, that song will never give me good vibrations. So, I was this small, scared, stuttering boy who was just so scared of the world, of people, of anywhere that wasn't my house. But most of all, I was scared of people finding out that I was different. I don't think those fears are unique in children. Some scared kids become bullies, some become Supreme Court justices. I became a stutterer. So I start school. And when I try to talk to other kids, I get stuck in a word and stutter, and they laugh at me. So I start to talk less. I don't engage. I hang back, waiting for the perfect moment to speak up, hoping that my words will come out clearly and I won't get laughed at. But because I'm not speaking regularly, I'm not building the mental muscles that I need. So when a situation forces me to talk, I can't help but stutter. And then they all laugh, and the cycle starts over again. Now, the laughter was bad, but the pity was worse. I hated how teachers and other parents would look at me when I would struggle with a word. They pitied me because of my stutter, but also because they all knew what had happened to my dad. I remember that the looks in their eyes just served as a confirmation for what I already felt on the inside. That I was weak, that I was broken, that everyone and everything would just be better if I stayed quiet. And it wasn't long before my habit of staying silent and out of the way earned me the nickname Quiet Wyatt. And another side note, my heart goes out to anyone here whose name happens to rhyme with anything. Because I don't need to tell you that children really respond to rhymes. Because of my stutter, I spent a lot of time alone. And in those moments of isolation, I turned to the comfort of fictional worlds and books and movies. I found that alone in my room, away from the pitying and pressuring eyes, I could relax and read aloud with more confidence. I would watch old movies like To Kill a Mockingbird and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, awestruck at the diction of the leading men. Their words carried such power. When they spoke, people listened. They never stuttered. I would watch and repeat every line until I got it right and could say it without stuttering. And looking back now, it's not a coincidence that my father had more than a passing resemblance to Gregory Peck and Jimmy Stewart. So, with each book that I read and each movie that I memorized, I got better. Little by little, my confidence grew. I started talking to my classmates, and over time, Quiet Wyatt stopped being so quiet. Now, the story of how I got from that scared, stuttering boy to the, let's say, passively confident man before you today, it doesn't have a specific eureka moment where I finally shrug off any sign of my stutter and win the big speech and debate championship and carried off by my classmates in celebration like in Rudy, all while my former tormentors stand by, their sneering faces slowly turning into glowing smiles as they break into a reluctant yet sincere round of applause. Real life doesn't work like that. I got to where I am today through dogged practice and a determined belief that I have a voice and I have something to say. That I wasn't going to let the tragedy of my past dictate my future. These days, I talk a lot, almost as if I'm making up for lost time. I spend my days recording audiobooks and my nights at comedy and storytelling shows like this one. But it doesn't matter how many times I practice or perform or how many people compliment me on my voice. That scared, stuttering boy will always be with me, ready to pop out whenever I get excited or tired or nervous. Because as anyone who has ever struggled with this impediment can tell you, you never get to become a former stutterer. But thanks to spaces like this and the people who support them, I can end my story tonight like I end my sentences, with poise and finality. Thank you.
When I was 6 years old, I began to dread Christmas. You see, I was a naturally anxious child. Some kids are naturally social, some kids are naturally good at numbers. I was naturally anxious. It was just instinctive. To make matters worse, my dad's way of bonding with me would be sharing his love of scary movies. Yeah. Now, there is a reason that children shouldn't watch scary movies, and I was the poster child for that. Being anxious and watching Carrie, the movie Carrie, before I went to bed, that was not a good mix. I remember going to bed that night, and I imagined that the shadows on the ceiling was actually pig's blood, and it was about to drop on my face. Yeah, that was where my mind went. And the other thing about me is that I was also very imaginative. When other kids went outside to play, I would spend hours in my room alone making up stories and make-believe lands and magical faraway places. And looking back on it, I'm sure it was my way of coping with my anxiety because in many ways it relaxed me. But the downside to that is that being highly anxious and highly imaginative, there's like no filter to stop my anxiety from building. So when I went to sleep at night and there was, say, the sound of a tree branch brushing against the window, it wasn't a tree branch in my mind. In my mind, I would decide that what if it's Freddy Krueger scraping his knifed fingers and he's trying to get in my house. That's how my mind worked. But when it came to Christmas, I had no fear. Christmas was like this magical time. I loved the idea of Santa and the elves and jingle bells. I mean, it was magic. Except Christmas Eve night when I was 6 years old, it changed everything. It started out pretty normal. We all helped my mom bake cookies and we left them at the fireplace for Santa. And there was this rule that we all had to be asleep when Santa came. So we all rushed off, said our prayers, and we went to bed early. Now, I don't know why I woke up in the middle of the night. It's probably because I was really excited. And I don't know why I was the only one that woke up in the middle of the night and everybody else was fast asleep. I shared a room with my sister and we had bunk beds. I scored the top bunk, so I had a really good view of everything. But we kept the door a little ajar that night because I thought if anything happened to me in the middle of the night, then at least, my parents could hear me scream. That was my mind. But this night, I woke up and I could see through the little slit in the door that all the lights were out in the house. Suddenly, I could hear footsteps downstairs, like heavy footsteps making the floor creak. They were moving very, very slowly, and my mind instantly decided this was Santa. Oh my God, Santa is here. I could hear the footsteps slowly make their way to the tree, because I could hear the tree rustle and the paper from the gifts crackling, and I was so excited. I'm probably the only one who can hear that Santa's in the house, and this was awesome. So after a few minutes or so, I hear the footsteps make their way back to the landing at the steps. And at this point, I'm thinking, okay, he'll make his way down the stairs to the lowest level, to the basement where the fireplace is. But they don't. Suddenly, I hear the steps start to creak, but it's the steps leading up to my bedroom. And I'm no longer excited. Nope. I am now thinking, why is Santa coming up the stairs? Why is Santa walking so slow? Isn't he supposed to be jolly and like have jingle bells on his boots? And like this doesn't sound happy. This sounds slow and stealthy. And then I start to think, why are we supposed to be asleep when Santa comes? You know, what happens if you're not asleep when Santa comes? And then I remember the gremlins, because like, wait a minute. They're like these cute little things, but if you feed them after midnight, they like turn into demonic teddy bears. So what if Santa comes, and the same holds true with Santa? What if you're not asleep when Santa comes? Santa's head turns around like 360, like that chick from The Exorcist, and when it flips around, like he's gonna have teeth like Jaws, and instead of a bag of toys, he's gonna carry a chainsaw. Yes, that is how my mind worked. And I can hear him getting closer to my room, and I begin to hear him pry, like I'm praying that he passes my door, but he doesn't. My door is partially open, so now it's like an invitation to come in, and I'm totally freaking out. I'm having visions of Jack Nicholson peering through that cracked door with an axe, but instead it's like Santa, and he's saying, "Here's Santa." And then I watched way too many scary movies. And then I slowly hear the door creaking open, and I'm thinking, please go to my sister, because she's like on the bottom bunk, and at this point it's every man for himself. But he doesn't. He stops right at the head of my bed, and since I'm on the top bunk, I'm elevated so I can't see who it is. I squeeze my eyes shut, but I don't know if this works, because in my mind, Santa, what if Santa and God are brothers, and he's like psychic? This is embarrassing talking about it. And he's like, and I mean, because if he knows when you are sleeping and he knows when you're awake, so like he knows that I'm faking this. And so now I'm like paralyzed. I'm paralyzed with fear because I know I'm going to die. Santa is going to kill me, it's a wrap. And just then I feel a hand, and I'm not kidding. I feel a hand, but it is a gloved hand, and it slowly rubs my forehead twice. I don't move, I don't breathe. And then suddenly, maybe 5 seconds later, with that, the footsteps turn and the door closes, and I hear the footsteps slowly make their way back down the stairs, and then silence. I don't sleep the rest of the night. And when 5 a.m. rolls around and the rest of my siblings are up, rolling out into my room to wait for our parents to get up, I am huddled in my bed under the covers. I don't want to go out. I don't want to see the presents. I don't care about any of it. I'm way too scared to tell anyone what just happened. But eventually, somehow or another, they coax me out to open my gifts, and Christmas goes on. I never found out who it was. But what I did come to realize is that though my imagination is a gift, if allowed to run amok, it can be a curse. And magic and wonderment need to be tamed and tapered with logic and practicality. Because for me, everything was real. The boogeyman was just as real as the tooth fairy. There were no limits. So I had to learn. But what I will say is this, that every Christmas thereafter, I posted a sign on my door that said, "Santa, thanks for the gifts, but do not enter."
There are people out there weak with stage 4 cancer. A natural disaster strikes every 7 minutes in some part of the world where people need urgent aid and support. Human trafficking is happening as we speak. These are all really important issues we face on our planet today. But I need your support right now. I need you to lend an ear on a subject that personally plagues myself and many people across the planet, and is arguably the most controversial subject amongst men, women, mothers, fathers, blacks, whites, not really Asians. But most of all, it's something I deal with every day of my life. Fucking frizzy hair. So you're probably thinking, what the fuck is her problem? Her hair looks halfway decent, just a little dry, you know? But guys, this is after spending an entire day deep conditioning, blow drying, flat ironing, then recurling already naturally occurring curls, but not the socially acceptable ones like Jessica Simpson. No, mine are more like Cyndi Lauper, circa girls just want to have fun, okay? Guys, it's a goddamn roulette game to style one's curly hair without seeking professional counsel, okay? Every time we, the curly, frizzy-haired people of the world, attempt to manage this problem on our own and skimp a little, just a little in the process, it's a lab experiment gone awry, okay? It's Silkwood all over again. I'm contaminated! One amateur move like buying frizzies, okay? Instead of $300 extinct animal oil. And you're fucking Whitesnake. But I've made up my mind. I ain't wasting no more time. Here I go again on my own. Going down the only road I've ever known. I know this probably seems trivial to you, and there's more pressing things on your mind, like, is that Tinder date gonna text you back? And should you have told him you have herpes? But if you're not currently breaking out, you don't technically have to mention it, do you? But when you've been traumatized with growing up as a child with curly hair in the 80s, where there were no decent hair products, or consumer price hair tools readily available to an 8-year-old, you might begin to understand the pain and anguish that was branded in my soul as a young New England gal in Boston. Sorry, I suddenly have an Irish accent. When feathered hair was still in its heyday, when the only true female role models out there were Dorothy Hamill, Farrah Fawcett, and Christy McNichols. Possibly the first lesbian in Hollywood to come out of the closet. Perhaps now, a brain tumor will seem trivial to you, okay? If it doesn't, then it might after you listen to this sad fucking tale. It was an early school day morning on a brisk autumn week in New England. I was making out with Davy Jones' picture that was displayed on the cover of my Big Sister's Monkeys album at the kitchen table with my salmon frosty lipstick I took from my mother's purse. In front of me was a box of Wheaties with a picture-perfect photo of the one and only Mary Lou Retton, another hero of mine. You see, she didn't have those unattainable, amazing flaps of feathered hair that were angelically aerodynamic like Cheryl Tiegs in the Tic Tac commercial. Just 1 calorie. 1.5, I don't remember. Okay. She had short feathered hair, and at that moment I realized that having feathered hair was finally a procurable goal. You see, she had short feathered flaps that were like baby Dumbo ears. They were beautiful, okay? I ogled them as they did their baby flaps in the wind when she bulleted towards the ball. Shoop, yoop, 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 in her red, white, and blue leotard that I also had, except hers fit perfectly and mine was more atwatic. So I cut the picture of Mary Lou off the box and begged my mother to get my hair feathered. You see, I made up my mind. I ain't wasting no more time. I pleaded to my mother. My mother finally gave in and took me to the grand opening of Supercuts in Boston. And back then, I think it was run by ex-parolee volunteers. Because they didn't use sharp scissors, they used like left-handed scissors, I think. Anyway, I think it was some kind of outreach program in Boston. So anyway, Zamila Gonzalez, with a tattooed teardrop in the corner of her eye, studied the Wheaties picture I presented her and then worked her magic. In less than 5 minutes, she assured me that, mira, when it dries, you're gonna look just like this huerco with no tits. You see, all I got was a cut and styling because my mother refused to pay the extra $2 to get my hair blow dried. But I left proud. I power walked to my best friend Erica's house, feeling what I thought were Mary Lorette and feathered flaps in the wind, with a touch of Chrissy from Three's Company. But the problem was, when curly hair is left to its own devices, by letting it naturally dry, compounded with 5 globs of green hair gel that Zamina worked into it, the future was more than just grim. I walked to my best friend with a proud look and said, "What do you think?" The expression on her face was terror mixed with pity. I turned to a mirror. I didn't think it was possible, but I literally looked like a Rastafarian chia pet. The week took even a darker turn. I spent the night trying to brush out the crunchy locks, but my hairbrush broke and got swallowed up by the dreadlocks in the cheap gel. The school nurse studied the problem, then sent me home, told my mother it's possible I have a growth. It was awful. My mother ended up cutting out the brush, leaving a bald patch in the back of my hair. Supercuts closed down already, so we couldn't get our fucking $4 back. That same week, I was diagnosed with the fucking stigmatism in my left eye. And to correct that, the doctor told me to wear glasses. So I picked out a signature Dorothy Hamill pink and brown pair, and I was told I had to wear an eye patch on my left eye to correct the problem for a year. Instead of getting the Band-Aid color patches, my dad opted for a black Pirates patch. Hey, it's washable. We can save a few fucking bucks. As if wearing a Pirates patch with a crunchy mullet, having a bald spot, and destined for bottle-thick glasses for the rest of my life wasn't bad enough. That same week, I was bouncing on my sister's bed and slipped and face-planted my front teeth into the wooden baseboard. Within 3 days, my teeth turned black and fell out for 6 years! 6 fucking years! You don't know what ugly is! Here I go again.
About yourself, you've never been in a fight. I've often thought there was something to these words spoken by the great Tyler Durden. But if this is true, then I know nothing about myself. The closest in my adult life I've come to throwing a punch or getting a punch thrown at me was on my friend Alyssa's birthday. She decided to celebrate by bar hopping in Santa Monica. This activity had annoying written all over it. I'd have to find parking on a Saturday night and spend what I'm sure would be obscene amounts of money on drinks. Actually, the bar we spent most of the night at wasn't that bad. It had a generic mass-marketed pub vibe whose commercial appeal I at least understood and could deal with. Shortly after midnight, someone suggested we move along to a bar called the Victorian. This place was jack-off central. I was immediately put off by the besuited security guards who kept asking us to move no matter where we stood. The clientele was no better, and one girl openly mocked the fact I lived in the valley. The drinks were twice as much as the previous bar, even though it was on the exact same block. Scowl on my face, a beautiful woman approached and asked why I wasn't having a good time. I proceeded to go on an angry rant about the wannabe hip assholes we were surrounded by. This rant did not get me laid. After 20 sobering minutes, I was ready to go. So was Alyssa and everyone else. Everyone that is except for our friend Bob. Bob was feeling blue. Wisely, he decided to compensate for these feelings with booze and lots of it. So Bob didn't want to leave. Bob wanted to dance. Why aren't you guys dancing? No one in the bar was dancing. We explained that the Victorian was a bust and we were going to leave. But Bob had discovered there's a hip club in the basement of the Victorian, cleverly called the Basement. I'm going downstairs, Bob declared. As we walked out to the sidewalk, Bob got online to get into the basement. Our friend Fox tried to get him to come with us, but Bob was determined. No matter how hard Fox tried, Bob would not leave. Outside, we had a meeting about the Bob situation. Most of the group wanted to abandon the drunk, but Fox was worried about him. Bob had no idea where we were heading, and his cell phone was dead. If we left him alone, he might try to drive. Fox didn't want to leave me a man behind, and neither did I. Bring me to him, and I'll drag his ass off that line, I vowed. Alyssa, tipsy, said she would come too, that Bob had to listen to her. It was her birthday. As our friends waited outside, Fox took us to Bob. Although the line to enter the basement was very long, somehow Bob had made it to the front. I had to get to him, but I knew how it would look. As I marched past the waiting club goers, I loudly announced over and over again, I am not cutting the line, I just need to talk to my friend. I pushed through with Alyssa and Fox close behind, repeating, I am not cutting the line, I just need to talk to my friend. Finally, I reached him. We're leaving. At that moment, the bouncer said, next. Bob flashed a shit-eating grin and descended into the basement. Before I could say another word, he was gone. I let out a sigh and turned to leave when a tall man in a tight V-neck t-shirt looked at me and shouted, hey, 5'6", back of the line. At first I didn't understand what he said. Was it an insult? Since I don't speak douchebag, I was confused. To add to the confusion, I'm actually 5'5". He gave me an inch. Alyssa, however, speaks fluent douchebag. Like a good and loyal friend, without missing a beat, she laid into him. What the fuck is your problem? Who the fuck do you think you are to be making fun of anyone, you piece of shit? Go fuck yourself. She went on and on and on. I don't remember too well because it was at this moment I realized what was happening. I started to feel the rage building inside me. I looked up at this man. He was smirking at Alyssa as she ranted. Finally, he looked her up and down and smugly said, whatever, 5'7" with lipstick. Apparently, this asshole's only comeback is to make a rough estimate about someone's height and condescendingly say it to them. Maybe he once worked at a carnival. But now he was insulting a friend. A female friend who had stuck up for me. If I was a real man, I would have to do something. I decided to continue the tirade of profanities Alyssa had started. You motherfucking piece of shit! What the fuck did you just say, you dumb cunt? I wish I had been wittier. But in times of true anger, this is the best I can muster. Nevertheless, it got his attention. He stepped towards me in genuine anger. It was one thing to have some weird drunk girl yell at him. It was another to have some short guy screaming up in his face. Another patron got in between us. The prick and I locked eyes. I glared up at him. He snarled down at me. Quickly, I realized there could be only two endings to this stare down. Either someone would have to throw a punch, or someone would have to walk away. I didn't want to throw the first punch. After all, I had just gotten under his skin, the move was his. But I also really didn't want to get hit. I knew he couldn't leave since he was in line. I had no choice but to end the staring contest and walk away. As I broke off eye contact, I felt like a pussy. I felt I had backed down. I needed to do something. I needed to make these people realize the kind of rage-fueled lunatic they were dealing with. Obviously, I needed to go insane. I jumped back and screamed at the top of my lungs. Later, I was told by Alyssa and Fox it was the loudest scream they had ever heard. It must have been since the entire next day my throat felt hoarse. I looked at all the trendy club goers in line. All you people can go fuck yourselves. You're a bunch of worthless motherfuckers. I started to march out, still screaming. I'm gonna come back here and burn this place to the fucking ground. Alyssa triumphantly followed me, along with Fox, who during this whole ordeal had done nothing. Now, it's not that I think Fox was a coward who didn't want to get involved. I just think Fox was completely confused by what he was seeing. His good friend Will was behaving like a maniac. When we got outside, I continued to yell to the dozen friends who were waiting. No one understood what I was saying or what had gone on, and I was far too frustrated to explain. However, they did notice we hadn't brought back Bob. The crew decided we should leave him behind, teach him a lesson for being a drunk fool. As they moved to the next bar, Fox and I stayed behind, still trying to figure out how to save our friend from the basement. We're gonna have to go back in, Fox said. I can't go in there. I just told them I was gonna come back and burn this place to the ground. Fox agreed I should wait outside while he descended into hell to rescue Bob. As I waited for them to return, I thought a lot about what just happened. I started to wonder what might happen if the height-guessing douche came outside and found me here alone. Would he kick my ass or would he just keep walking? The latter would be even more upsetting. It would mean he viewed this 5'5" ball of anger as nothing. It would mean this encounter had no impact on him. I will always remember this incident. Would he? I knew walking away was the right move, but I also knew throwing an uppercut into his face would have made me immortal. He wouldn't have forgotten the time he had to kick some guy's ass in line at the basement. Or even better, the time some short piece of shit kicked his ass. Eventually, Fox came out of the bar, followed by Bob, still with that shit-eating grin plastered across his face. We met up with the rest of our crew, and the night ended in its usual dull fashion. I'll probably never get into a physical altercation. The logical part of my brain realizes this is a good thing. But I think we all have a part inside of us that wants to be tested. We think, of course we would stand up for a friend, or more importantly, ourselves. Given the opportunity, would we really? I'd like to think I would, but at the last minute, that survival instinct might kick in and send me fleeing. Maybe that's the real reason I walked away at the basement and everything else is just an excuse. Maybe I'm actually too scared to fight. I guess it's true. How much can you know about yourself? You've never been in a fight.
play a song I wrote with Taylor Negron. Yeah, this is based on Taylor's favorite poem, which was Ithaca by Cavafy. And it was the last song we worked on together, actually, and it's strange because it was coming up on 2 years that we started writing it. And every time I come here, it's very, very healing to remember all the times he and I did this show. It was about 9 years ago, I think, the first time we were here. And I miss him. I miss him every day. I know a lot of you do. And I miss doing Sit and Spin with him especially. It was always magic from our point of view. I don't know how it is out there. I had a good time. And this is a song called Ithaca. Dissolves out of these 20th century walls. I'm playing in a soft key, 'cause the sound carries through the hall. Surprised to get your call from the hospital. Home today. We're on our way to Ithaca. When you set out on your journey, did you pray it would be long? That you would be broke and broken, happy and strong, rich with all you find and all you overcome. Come what may, you owe it all to Ithaca. The Cyclops, Poseidon, hide my face, I hide my face from you. Don't live the dream you wanted, live the dream you want. Don't live the life you wanted, live the life you got. Going on into 21st century speeds, channeling ancient energies. It's also interesting to live